Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, I guess we're live. Is the audio good? Let me know. Yeah, so it's been, I think the mic is a little bit loud. Not sure. Yeah. So it's been 1 week since I got a really strong flu, but now we're back at redoing, recontinuing the process. of making the system to work. So basically what we got so far here is the ability for the character to, be able to pick up the weapons, be able to drop, holster, and equip the weapons. Right now we're working with only 2 weapons at the moment, but we've been getting really good results so far. So that's what matters. So as you can see when you press play, we can be able to pick up the rifle. As you can see right there, we have the ALS layering system to be working. As you can see, the camera zooms in really nicely to the character, so that we can have a really good focus. We're gonna have to add the reload ability, the shooting ability for the character as well. And we're going to do everything on the weapon master, such as adding what kind of ammo the character has, how much ammo the weapon itself has, what is the weapon state, weapon type. All those types of informations are going to be in the weapon master blueprint. And of course, we're going to have child of that blueprint, which is this one right here. As you can see, if you go to the class defaults, you're going to be able to set what is going to be the equip socket location for the weapon, if that weapon is the last holstered weapon in the character's hand, what is the weapon state, the ammo, fire mode, etc. So you're going to be configuring all of that inside each one of the child blueprints. All right, so I'm going to show you guys what I've got functioning well, since the last call was really, the code was really messy, so I had to do some cleanup and system improvements. So in here, we still have the IK issue, but that's fine for now. We're just worried about the core logic for now, which is the most important thing to do right now. So as you can see, the character can aim. It can, if you press Q, it can holster the weapon, holster the rifle in this case. If you press Q once again, as you can see, the character can be able to equip the weapon. And as you can see, the last holstered weapon, as you can see right here, it's shown in the yellow text. So as you can see, last holstered weapon is BP rifle child. And here it tells us how many weapons the character owns. So in this case, is the weapon 1 is rifle. The weapon is equipped. We have 2 informations in here for the picked up weapon. I'm still thinking if we should keep that information for the last picked up weapon. And here I have the overlay state. What is the current overlay state that the character is using? And this one is the rifle. And here it tells us the ability if the character has the ability to pick up a weapon, which is true in this case. So I can come over here and press F, and he can be able to pick the pistol. And now we have, as you can notice, we have two owned weapons. The first owned weapon is the rifle, and the second one is the pistol. As you can see here, it changes the name. And you can also holster the pistol. So as you can see, as soon as you holster the pistol, it updates the states. So as you can see, the weapon 1, the rifle is holstered. The rifle is holstered. The last holstered weapon is the BP pistol 1H child, which is the one that we've just holstered. The owned weapon 2, the state is pistol is holstered. So pretty much this one, let me just change their colors so that we can better see which weapons the character owns. So we're going to go to the debug function. And here you can change the color, the text color. In here, I'm going to put a nice orange, just to stand out from the others. So as you can see, when you pick up the weapon, let me see if that's the... Oh yeah, we're gonna have to change the same thing. I have to pick a color for this one as well. All right, so compile, press on play. Now, as soon as you pick up a weapon, as you can see, now the owned pistol weapon 1 pistol is equipped. And if I holster, as you can see, updates the state from equipped to holstered. Now, if I pick up the rifle, in this case, now it's going to show up right below, and it's going to say that the rifle is equipped and the weapon is holstered. Mirakuru, sorry for that. Mirakuru said, please provide an inventory system. Yeah, we're going to be working on that as well, on the inventory system. Right now, we're just working with a basic inventory system so far, but the inventory system that we're going to be working on is going to be inspired in the Last of Us 2 type of weapon inventory system. And I'm still trying to figure out the best controls for how you're going to be able to pick up the weapon, like which key you're going to press to switch the weapons. But we're going to make it work. Jordan, you said, how can I do a pickup system and drop system? Those are the steps I pretty much covered throughout all the lives. Since I think the live 15, we started to cover the pickup and drop system. But basically, I'm going to be explaining how I've done that system, those two systems. And the systems that we currently have is the pickup, the drop system, the equip and holster system, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's very much confusing, especially for a beginner at the beginning. But once you master the code, there is nothing that can stop you to achieving better code and more functionalities. So let's go to the weapon pickup, drop holster logic, and equip. Everything is combined together, but let's do equip because there's also equip logic in here. All right. So at the first glance, it might seem a little bit too much for a beginner, but that's what we got so far. Ghost mode said, hello, my friend. Hello. So as you can see, let's go for the initial action first, because the F button is, the F key is the button that you press for picking up the weapon, and we can, you know, reuse those, reuse some of the variables and references. Hold on. I'm trying my best to speak, but my voice is not letting me. So as soon as you press F, we trace for a weapon, which spawns a box trace for objects. So as you can see, before that, we do some checks in order to check if the character is in the condition of checking for weapons, right? Now, in here, after we trace for the objects, we search for the object of weapon. And then we use the location for calculating the reach distance for the blunt space, which plays the animation of the character of the character picking up the weapon, which is this one right here. So if you go to the weapon pickup, state machine, and if you go to the blunt space, as you can see, we have different animations, different animation pulses. And depending on the location and value from that blunt space, I'm just playing this animation here, we get different locations of the character picking up the weapon. And so that we calculate this values goes inside the blunt space. As you can see right here, we use those values. And we do a little map range clamp because we need to set the offsets for the blunt space. Fabio said, will this video be saved? Yes, it's going to be saved. So we do some calculations. We use the actor transform of the character and the weapon location of whatever the weapon was identified by the trace. So as soon as the trace detects that weapon, which is just one location, we save that location, we promote it to a variable, and then we use the node called find relative look at rotation to make those calculations and like how what is considered to be the right from the relative location of the character, and rotation considering as well, and what is the height, like what is considered to be like too much high, like relative to the character, and too much low relative to the character. And in here we use the weapon identifier for the box trace. As you can see, we after the trace weapon. Hold on. All right, we're back. So as you can see, after the trace has identified the weapon, we use a branch to really tell if that weapon was detected. If the weapon was detected, then we use a macro, which is called weapon identifier. And this is going to identify the type of weapon we detected, right? This macro, as you can see, you can find in here. It's called weapon identifier. So as you can see, you can use the drop-down menu in here. So as you can see, you can select the weapon identifier. And for that macro, what we have inside that macro is this one right here. As we're using the weapon master as a base for all the child blueprints for the weapons, we are going to be getting all the actors of a class and use the BP weapon master blueprint in here. So here I just reset this value so that we can use it in here. It's a good practice to just reset this value to be the default one, which is false. So make sure that the check mark is removed. There is no check mark in here. And that's it. Now as soon as we do a weapon, the get out all actors of a class, as soon as we run this node, it's going to return us all the actors that matches with that class. So that's going to depend on how many weapons you have in the world. Perhaps if you have like 1,000 weapons, maybe not this is the best ideal solution for. Maybe if you have like 1,000 weapons spawned into the world, maybe this is not the best ideal solution. In that case, you should be able to get a better code than this. But let's suppose you do not have that many weapons. Let's say at max, I don't know, 10, 15, or 20 max. 20 max weapons spawned into the world. I think you don't need really need that much of weapons. Unless you have like a lot of NPCs that are holding a lot of weapons, but that's not the case. So as soon as you can see here, the max amount of weapons that we're going to have in this case in the world is 3. It's just the pistol, the rifle, and the bow. I think there's nothing else. So in order, we're going to have like 3 references of actors. It's going to come out of this variable in here, and we're going to do and plug that directly into the ForEach loop with break. So the ForEach loop with break is going to take the array, the references of all the weapons that are in the world. So it's going to take all those references and it's going to loop the execution is going to loop as many times as the amount of times that it's going to loop is going to depend on how many weapons are there in the world. So if there are 3 weapons in this case, then this for each loop is going to be executed 3 times. So just 1, 2, 3 until and how we set up, and the way we set it up to break, to stop the loop execution, is if we found the weapon. So as you can see, we have this execution line in here, and if that's true, if the branch is true, then we save the reference basically. And after we save the reference, as you can see, this line goes through in here and goes to the break execution input. So as soon as you break the ForEach loop, the ForEach loop is going to return the completed is going to execute the completed execution output, which is going to return us into here. So it's going to continue the code, and it's going to return us if the weapon was found or was not found. So that's why it's important to set this weapon found. So in case it's not found, in case the loop body goes through 3 times and doesn't find the weapon that was hit by the box trace. So if the reference does not match with the reference that comes out of those arrays, that comes out of one single array, if that reference does not match, then it's returned weapon found to be false. And that's pretty much how it works. If it's found, basically what's happening here is that if we find the reference that was hit by the box trace, the weapon reference, and if it matches with the weapon that we find from this node right here, if it matches, then we save that to a reference. And the reason why you need to do all of this is because we cannot get the reference out of the generic hit actor. We cannot get the reference, for example, of the skeletal mesh. You cannot do that. You can only get the reference out of one of those variables that are inside of here. So that's why you need to reference all the actors available in the world, all the weapons, like in this way right here, using this node to get all actors of a class, to just get the reference that we get, so that we can use the skeletal mesh reference, for example, like this, so that you can do anything. You can like destroy the component, or simulate physics. So if you want to simulate physics of the weapon skeletal mesh, you can. So that's pretty much it. Now, continuing here, if the weapon was found, we go to the branch again. And so if it's true, we separate the references. But this code is this code is not being used. So let's just ignore this for now. This was just an old way that I used to do to separate the references. All right. So if the weapon identified is not equal to default, if it's not equal to default, which means each weapon we created has a unique variable, which is called weapon type. So as you can see, the default value is default. So as soon as you create a new weapon, make sure that in the class defaults, as you can see here, I am in the pistol 1A child. Make sure that in the class defaults, the weapon type matches with the weapon that you're currently setting up. So let's say you're trying to set up and create a new weapon of the type of, I don't know, baseball bat. Then you're gonna have to create a new value in the weapon type enumerator. So let's say baseball bat, for example. Now what you're gonna have to do is just create a new child of that class. And here you're going to name it to be baseball bat. And then in here, you're going to go to the class defaults and set everything up. I'm going to go into more depth on how you can set everything up, but this is just a part of a tutorial that you can use as a reference to learn how to set up the weapon type. So as you can see here on the default, you cannot let this option to default, otherwise it's going to cancel the weapon pickup. Otherwise, this code is going to be executed, this code in this case. So if it equals to default, then we're going to cancel the weapon pickup event. And for that function, we're going to execute this code in here. Wait. So as soon as the pickup weapon cancel event is executed, we're going to just reset those values back to their default values, so that we don't cause and prevent bugs. So this is just for preventing bugs. as you can see right there. So yeah, so just make sure that the weapon type value is set to be the real one. So in this case, it's baseball bat. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm still not 100%, but let's do it. So if it's not equal to default, then we're going to block the movement input of the character so that we can prevent bugs. And what that's going to happen is that as soon as you approximate and like try to pick up the weapon, the character, we're going to block the movement input of the player. So as you can see, I cannot move while picking up the weapon while playing the animation, and that's very good. In The Last of Us, we can still move the character while picking up the weapon. Now, when you pick up the weapon in the story mode, I noticed that we play a cutscene animation for the character, so the character is not going to be able to move anyway. But for picking up items such as, items to make other things such as Molotovs, grenades, such things, we can still move while the character picks up the whatever item he's trying to pick up. So we can make those two systems if if it's the case. Now in here we play the fit correction with the simple turn 45. Let's say if without the fit correction, how the character stays. As you can see, it doesn't do much, but sometimes the character's leg is a little bit too much forward and it looks weird. So if you want to, so as you can see, just place a little bit of foot correction in there. You can also edit the start time to really match. As you can see right here. So you can play around with this and see which one works the best. Maybe you need a slower play rate, but you can always play with those values: the play rate, the starting position, the end position of the fit correction. And in here, we're going to check if the character already owns more than one weapon. So as you can see, when you pick up the weapon for the first time, so as you can see, this execution here is executed. The execution line goes through and executes this switch on a weapon state to just see how. I'm just seeing something here. BP weapon master. Let me see where that is. Where do we set this? Set. Okay, so this variable reference is set up inside the weapon identifier macro, as we talked about before. So basically, this is the reference that we need for us to be able to pick up the reference of the skeletal mesh of the character. And then we use that variable inside of here. So this is basically the reference of what the trace has detected, right? And here we're going to basically read the weapon state if the weapon is not owned by any other enemy. Basically check the state of the weapon if the weapon is not holstered or neither equipped yet on the character. So if the weapon is not owned, that means that the weapon is not on the character, is not owned by the character. Just a confirmation. So as you can see, you can continue. Now, as soon as you press F, this execution goes through. And it's going to skip all this coding here because this is the code that we're going to run if, in case we need to holster the whatever weapon we have in our hands currently. So let's say you pick up this rifle, and now you want to pick up the pistol. So the problem we were having before is that the character was picking up the pistol while not holstering the rifle, or vice versa in this case, right? So as soon as you pick up the pistol now, if you have the rifle in his hands, we are going to firstly holster. The character is automatically going to holster the rifle first before picking up the weapon. So as soon as you can see, so as you can see, if I press F just once, the character is just going to holster the rifle first, and then only then pick up the pistol, and it's going to execute all those, not all this, but only the necessary code needed for the character to holster the weapon. But we're going to go through that later. And here's going to check if the character is still alive. Maybe the character has died in the process of picking up the weapon, or something else has happened. So you need to make sure that you have those types of variables in place, because if something happens in the process, because something could happen on the process of the fit correction, for example. So in that small amount of fraction of seconds, the character could die, or the character could be pushed away from a enemy. Something could happen. Something could happen on the process, so you need to make sure that the character is still alive, or something else. So if the character is not alive, we're going to cancel the weapon pickup event, which is going to just cancel all this, and you need to make sure that you have other events that are going to happen if but firstly, make sure that you cancel the weapon pickup event, and then you can make the character to to be destroyed, or whatever you want to do. So if the character is alive yet, has not died, we're going to update the state of the character. And in here, we want to make sure we set up some states of the character. So in here, wants to walk is going to be disabled, which means if the character is on the walk mode, the character is going to be... We're going to basically disable the walk mode if the character is in that state. And we're going to disable the aim mode if the character is on that state. That's basically what's happening here. So if you want, you can also make the character to strafe, for example, by enabling the spins in here. So let's say, I want the character to strafe, to start strafing. Basically enter the strafe mode as soon as we do this execution in here. You can as well. You can pretty much be free to choose what you want to do with the character state, which character state you want to set for it to be in here. And here it's going to update also in the state in the server as well, which is going to just execute this code that the Epic Games made. I'm not sure. It just updates the character input state variable there, based on the output value set in here in this box. All right. So here you're allowed to play the pickup weapon animation, which is going to play our weapon animation in here. As you can see, we have this variable. So as soon as that variable is set to true, we're going to switch and then play the weapon pickup animation. So as soon as the animation is done, as soon as the character picks up the weapon, we read from the weapon master picked up weapon, And then in here we set the overlay state based on which weapon type is of the weapon you're trying to pick up. So you need to be very careful on setting up the weapon type, because you need to, specify it later. In here, specify the overlay state based on the type of weapon. And the overlay state is basically the pose that the character is going to be in after you pick up the weapon. So for the bowl, for example, you need to set the bowl in here so that the character can be on the bowl overlay state. We still need to set up the bowl overlay state as well, and that's going to be after we finish this. So right now I'm just explaining what I've done, what changes I've done before the live stream. So, and then finally, after picking up after this event in here, so as you can see when I press play, as you can see, as soon as the character reaches for the weapon, we're going to execute this code. And this is the code, this is the function that I've set up. We have some code off in here because I was testing some stuff to make it more scalable. So don't mind me. All right. So we set the simulation physics to be off in case it's simulating. So we run this holster equip weapon, and we set the collision to prevent mesh going through other meshes. This is just a test, but don't need to worry about this. The test nomenclature in here. So we set the collision enable to be no collision. We use the box reference and the skeletal mesh reference, which are these ones right here. If you go to the BP weapon master, as you can see, the skeletal mesh is the actual skeletal mesh you're going to use for, using for replacing the them in here. So you can use the type of weapon you want to use, the type of skeletal mesh. And the box is going to be the location that is going to represent for the box trace to identify the weapon. So if you want to make it huge, that's going to make it so that the box trace is going to be easier for the box traces to identify the weapon in this case. So the box is just as identifiable for the box trace to identify the weapon. It's going to be better for it to identify depending on the size you choose. So if you choose it to be very small, it's going to be harder. If you choose it to be big, it's going to be better for the box trace to identify. So it's all up to you to just, you can be free to move that location to here. There is no problem. You can set it the location. You can be free to set the location. So in here, we set the collision object type to be word dynamic, both for the box and skeletal mesh. We detach the skeletal mesh from whatever is attached to it. We set the gun's location to the end target location. So we have the attached socket in here, which is going to, it's going to depend if you want to equip the weapon, if you want to attach the weapon to the socket, or if you want to holster, if you want to attach it to the holster. So you can choose, you can pretty much choose which one you want. And then in here, we firstly set the active transform, and then we attach the component to component. We plug in the attached socket in here, and that's pretty much it. Inside the collapse graph, we have this code execution, basically those references which are needed for filling up the values for the function. So as you can see, we have all the input values already in place, and each input value, they are they need to have their own reference right in order to work in here. And then in here we get the reference of the picked up weapon reference that we got from the trace to basically reference the target. And the target is very much the same. And only in here we select the BP weapon pistol, which we plug into the actor reference. And the actor reference input pin is BP weapon master type, which makes everything else work. So we use that actor reference in here for the set actor transform. Is very important. And yeah, I think that's the only place we place the actor reference in there. So here we pass the current weapon reference and store it in the character's owned weapons array. And this array is very important because it very much holds all the owned weapons that the character has currently. So in case if the player dies, if you want to choose to remove all his weapons, you can just pick up the owned weapons. Firstly, of course, you can check if the character has owned weapons in the event that has died. So if you want to check if the character has any weapons, you can use the not equal to 0. So in case if you want to print the string, and if the result that you get out of the print string is 0, that means that the character does not have any owned weapons. In case if it is 1, the character has 1 weapon. In case if it is 2, the character has 2 weapons, and so on. So you can just use a branch in here, and if the character has a weapon or doesn't have a weapon, you can proceed with getting the BP owned weapons array, and you can just clear everything, and you can just remove all the weapons with this execution here. But this is just an example. Of course, you have other things to do in the variables of inside the variables of the blueprint. But this is just an example of how things are going to work if it's needed after. I think we're gonna have to do this code after, just to do an example of what happens if the character dies, and it's needed, as in the project, it's needed for the character to remove all the weapons, if you get what I mean. Right, so we set the fault. So we set to be false so that it clears the box trace results to avoid future bugs. Yeah, that's really good. So here's a delay. I don't really usually use or like delays, but that's something that we can improve later. So here it checks if the character is still alive, and it turns off the play pickup weapon animation, and we set the block movement input of the character to be allowed, so the player is going to have control of the character and so on as soon as this variable is disabled. And then here we update the, in this case not the pistol, but it's the weapon. So we're going to update whatever weapon the character has in the hands, the state of the weapon. So as soon as you pick up the weapon, immediately the weapon state is going to be equipped. So so we just update those variables after duration of 0.3. And the reason why is because we're going to wait for the pickup animation to finish. If you set it to be 0.0, the weapon pickup animation is going to be a little bit bad. It's going to look a little bit bad, as you can see. Press F. I don't know, it's going to be a little bit quick. I don't like that. It's like, unless if you want to change it, if you want to change the false blend time to 1, maybe that's gonna help. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit weird, but we're gonna have to refine it later so that it doesn't glitch. 4. Let's try .4. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's not bad. It's not good. It's not bad. So I guess we can let the duration of 0, but you need to be really careful with this. You need to test a lot of things before you can make. After you make a change, you need to test and iterate because you might have some bugs on the way. It just seems that sometimes it just seems that you're not gonna have bugs, but you really need to test things after you make changes to the code. But in case we have some bugs, we can come back at this and can make this a test duration time number. Set it to be 0.1. I think that's a good value. Just 1 millisecond. Yeah, that's good. All right. So what else do we have? All right. So now we come to the part where we have to press Q so that we can holster and equip the weapon. So as soon as you press Q, as you can see, we have the weapon. Everything's good. Everything's perfect. Wow. Okay, good. So as soon as you press Q, as you can see, we can holster the weapon. And this execution here, as you can see, it's executed. Let me just check if you press Q alone. Yeah, if you press Q alone, of course we're going to do some checks, but it's going to check if the PP weapon master picked up weapon is true first. So as you can see, as soon as I press Q and I haven't picked up any weapon, it's just going to go not valid. And the reason why is because that reference is not validated yet. So as soon as you don't pick up any weapon, it's going to be not valid. And so as soon as you pick up the weapon and press Q, as you can see now that reference is validated, was validated before, after I picked up the weapon. So I can press Q now and it's going to work. And now in here, it's going to check if the character is playing the pickup animation. If the character is still picking up the weapon animation, if the character is not picking up the weapon animation in the moment, then you're going to continue the execution in here. And here we can check if the character is holstering or equipping. Here you don't use those variables because they are outdated. I've created some enumerators, which is going to be a lot better. But in case if you're not following, or if you haven't created those enumerators yet, you can choose to create them. They are called weapon. Let me just see here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to create them. I think I haven't created the current state of the character. Now, if the character is currently holstering or equipping, I have to create a enumerator that tells what is the current action of the character. So I think that's a pretty good information to have. And then in here, we're going to check if any animation montage is currently being played on the character skeletal mesh. Which is very nice as well. It's very nice to know. Found. I don't know what this found is for. Oh, from here. So I'm just make sure to disable, set its default value to avoid bugs or prevent issues on the loop event. So as you can see here, as soon as we press F and as soon as we press Q, that, as you can see, something here is executed. The line, it's very fast. As you can see, it's just a blink of an eye. It's just one frame. It executes it's very fast blueprints. But as you can see, as soon as I press Q, something here is executed. I don't know where it goes, but firstly, it's going to check if it's going to check for the owned weapons array, and if that contains the weapon equipped, if that contains a weapon equipped, it's going to go to found, and it's going to promote that to a variable. And this, as soon as you promote it to a variable, we're going to break the loop execution function, and then it's going to go to completed. And if it is found, and if this is true, we're going to go to this execution here. Let me just organize this a little bit better. Like this. All right. And then if it is found, we're going to basically play the holster weapon macro. And then inside this holster weapon macro, we're going to block the moving input, depending if you choose to block or not. It's up to you. You can just plug this to be true or off. In case if you want to block the movement input of the character while he holster the weapon, you can as well. You can choose to do that. So it's all up to you. In my case, I want to be able to holster. I want to be able to make it so that my character can holster the weapon without having the character to stop. So I'm going to allow my character to be able to holster the weapon while he's moving. It doesn't matter if he's in the air or walking or strafing. I want to be able to not block the player movement and the character movement while holstering the weapon. And then here we play the holster pistol animation. I think this is going to be for the weapon animation. And I don't know what this is for. Weapon type. Yeah, I guess this is not used anymore. I just delete that. And after the duration of 0.2, we're going to go back to the overlay state, because when when you're going to be holstering the weapon, when you holster the weapon, you're going to go back to the overlay state of default, because you're not going to have any weapon in your hand after holstering. So, and also I choose that delay is because if you just go directly in there, the holster animation is not going to be executed, I think. Let me just, yeah, it is going to be executed, so I don't know why. Why that's going to be, why there has to be a delay in here, but this is just, I'm just going to write it to be optional. But you still have to test a lot of things. As soon as you change a value here, or delete this delay, something could happen later in the future. So it's optional. And it's to test without the delay later. So as soon as you make like any kind of change in the project, you need to really test over and over again to make sure that you don't have any bugs after you do such change. So I'm just going to let it like this for now. And then here you're going to change overlay, just update overlay state. Update new overlay state, that's great. And here, in case the montage is interrupted, which could cause bugs, we just print a simple string so that we know if that happens, we know that we have to make a better code. We're gonna have to handle it better. But in this case, I'm just going to let it to be holster. I'm just going to let it to print a string warning me that the holster animation was interrupted. Or if you want, you can also write attention, something like this, something really that grabs your attention that something needs to be done in the code. So as soon as that animation is done, we have the onNotify begin, which is going to be triggered as well. The event, this event in here. So as soon as the onNotify begin is executed, which is the exact moment of where the character puts his hand on the back, as you can see, that event, the animation frame 0.5, in that animation frame, the character is going to basically start the holster process. So we execute the function called holster or equip weapon. And the reason that is because we've made this function versatile so that you can either use it to holster or equip the weapon. You just gotta change the holster socket or equip socket. Oops. You just gotta change the holster or equip socket in here. So if you want to equip, if you want to holster, you can just change them in here. It's very easy. It's very easy to set up. And make sure that you have the right reference in here. In this case, is the weapon to be holstered. Actually, this is weapon to be holstered or equipped, depending on the current state. Depending if the character has the weapon holstered or equipped. So inside of the collapse graph is the same thing. It's just the references. If you want, you can organize this a little bit better, like this. And then this could be pretty much everything's set up. So after the holstered equip weapon, we execute the set last holstered weapon for the rest to be false. So this is a collapsed graph. And the reason why you need to do this is just to prevent bugs, because before I was having bugs that I forgot what bug was. Maybe we have a better way to do this, but we're gonna have to keep testing to see and refine the code better if it's needed. But so far, it's what we've got. So what we're doing here, we get all the owned weapons, and then we search for a all the weapons that are equipped on the character. If that's found, then if that's not found, then we set all the weapons that are not equipped, that are holstered, to off. And then after setting it to off, we only get the reference of the weapon to be holstered or equipped, which is the one that we've just referenced it here. We set that to be the last holstered weapon, as this whole code in here is just holstering the weapon, the phase of holstering the weapon. And we just set the last hosted weapon variable inside whatever weapon is being holstered to be true, because we're basically holstering the weapon. So as you can see, when I press F and then when I press Q, this code is executed. Everything is executed in here. And we also update the state of the weapon to be weapon is holstered. And we update the overlay state to be default. I don't know if you do that before. We're gonna have to still check it out, but no, we don't do that before. So we're good. So in case case, that's not the case. So as you can see, it goes directly into true because it found that the weapon is equipped. So it goes directly into true and it's going to execute the holster phase. But what if you want to press once again, right? What if you want to press Q once again? Now, this, as you can see, you can pay attention to this. This is going to go to false somewhere else. But as soon as I press Q once again, as you can see, the weapon is now holstered. Now, once we equip the weapon, now if I press Q once again, so as you can see, this code down below here is executed, and it's going to, what's gonna do is going to set it to be false again, so that we can prevent and be able to execute this ForEach loop with break efficiently. So it's going to check for the last holstered weapon. If it's true, then we're going to check if that weapon state is, it should be a weapon is holstered. And if it's true, we're going to promote it to a branch. We're going to promote it to a, actually this is before. We're going to promote it after. No, it's right. So if the weapon state is weapon is holstered, which is going to be the case, then we're going to go to true, then we're going to promote that to found, to a variable, so that we can make the last check in here. So we're going to update the reference of the weapon to be holstered or equipped. You know, this is going to be the reference of the pistol in this case, but it could also be the reference of any other weapon. But in this case, when I press Q and when I press Q again, as you can see, that state is updated. This reference of the variable is updated. And after that's done, we're going to break the execution, the for each loop execution, which is going to, you know, and then after breaking it, the completed execution is going to be triggered, which is going to go down to this branch in here, which is going to then make another set of rules, and we're going to run a lot of other code in here. So as we keep equipping the weapon, we're going to get that variable and already update it to be last holstered weapon to be false. And then here we're going to play a equip from holster weapon macro animation, and here we're going to unblock the player movement if it's blocked, in case it's blocked, but in my code it's very hard to be blocked. So here you're going to play the animation for equipping the pistol from the holster. So as you can see, this animation is played. So as soon as you equip the weapon, all those executions, as you can see, they are executed in their way, in their time. So as soon as you play this animation montage, which is the equip state, on this animation, on this frame of this animation here, the notify begin is executed. So as you can see, as soon as the character touches his back, this on notify begin here is executed. And here we notify ourselves that in case that animation is interrupted, we can notify ourselves so that we're gonna have to handle this better later. This equip action in here, this code I don't use. I'm just going to delete it without even looking at it because everything works now. So we have other codes. I've separated it to be from one single macro. we have a lot of execution outputs that are going to be executed depending on the state of the montage, of the animation montage. And let me just organize this a little bit better. All right, so this true execution here is going to be executed as soon as the montage is executed. So as soon as the montage starts to be executing, this true execution is going to be executed as well. So which is going to immediately set our, basically set the character, immediately set the character overlay state to be the right one. So if the character is equipping, in this case, the pistol, they're going to set the overlay state to be the pistol. And in case the character is equipping the rifle, we're going to set it to be the rifle. And the only one thing that's missing here is the bowl that we're going to be setting up later. So we're going to set the bowl overlay state in here. And that's going to go on and on. If you want to add a new value in here for the weapon type, you can add it here in case you're creating a new weapon, but that's a tutorial for later. All right, so that's pretty much done. It looks a little bit messy, but you know, we're just testing new stuff, so you can expect this mess to be here. As soon as the montage is completed, we get this collapse graph in here. Don't really use this variable anymore. We notify that the last holstered weapon is true. So as soon as you equip that weapon, in this case the pistol, that's going to set the pistol to be the last holstered pistol in here. And on notify begin, we're going to basically equip. As you can see, we're using the equip socket, not the holstered socket. We're using the equip one. And we're going to run the function that I've made that's very much scalable, because you can choose which information you want to add to the attached socket in here. So, and then finally we're going to equip, and then finally we're going to set the weapon state to be equipped, because it's very important to know that. And that's basically it. It's very much like updating states, making sure that the states are updated as they should be, in the time that they should be, when they should be, how they should be. All right, so I'm just going to answer some comments. I'm going to answer some comments in here, but I think that's very much what I've done before the live stream, because I really had to organize this a little bit better. So this maybe doesn't need to be here. Oh yeah, I forgot just one thing to explain this part in here. So just going to explain this part as well. So here we get the old weapons reference the character is holding, so that we can use it to holster the weapon the character is holding first before picking up a new weapon. So as soon as you pick up the pistol, we firstly check for the owned weapons. And then what we want to find for is the weapon is equipped. So whatever weapon is equipped on the character's hand, we're going to find it. And if that matches, we're going to search for the owned weapons of the character. And if that matches with the condition, with the branch, we're going to holster that specific weapon that we found there. And then we're going to update the saved weapon reference in here, as we've promoted in here. So as soon as you pick up a new rifle, as you can see, firstly it's going to pick up the reference of the pistol, and if the pistol is equipped, then if it's true, then we're going to holster that weapon macro by getting the reference of the pistol, setting to be last holstered, and then from there we're going to set the pistol reference to be holstered, and then we're going to holster the reference of the, we're going to get the reference of the pistol, and then we're going to holster it using the holster socket, and we're going to follow from there. Now, in case if the weapon is not equipped and is holstered, then we're going to go to this other execution down below in here. So I'm just going to if it's holstered, and if I try to, let me just drop this weapon in here. So let's say the character already owns, again, if the character owns more than one weapon, it's going to go to this. Now, if the weapon is in the character's hand, this code is going to be executed. So if it's not on the, if the weapon is holstered, if it's not equipped, if it's just holstered like it is right now, and if you try to pick up that weapon, as you can see, this code down below here is going to be executed. And we don't set the last holstered weapon because the last holstered weapon still is the pistol. But if you want to set it, just be free. We just block the movement input of the character because it's necessary, as we don't have the as we don't have to holster the weapon first. And this is finished. So we don't run the holster weapon macro because we don't need to. And then we save. And then let me just see here. I think this reference could not be executed. And then as soon as we pick up rifle, we set the the rifle reference to be holstered, which is not true. I think this could be something that we can improve. Just pick up. So let me just see. Pistol weapon is equipped. Rifle is holstered. Okay. So I guess it's picking up the reference of the rifle instead. yeah, it's picking up the reference of the rifle. So as you can see on the default state, saved weapon reference is BP rifle child. Interesting. I'm just try again with the different. It's the rifle. Okay. So this is going to update weapon enhance state. Weapon holstered in this case. Weapon holstered state. All right, I guess everything is working well. So there's nothing that needs to be changed so far. So I'm just going to read some comments here, and then I'm going to go now. I think there are some variables that I need to delete, such as is holstering rifle, has rifle tag, I don't need it, has pistol 1H is holstered as well. What else? Has pistol 1H in hands, also I'm not using it. All right, so yeah, is holstering or equipping is also, I think I'm not using it. If I'm using it, then it's not needed to be used. Because we're gonna have to refine this a little bit, but I'm just going to delete it now because I need to make a enumerator for this. So after deleting everything, just search for that variable here, delete it. There we go. And that's pretty much it. Stephen Paul said, love your series, great content, a bit too technical, but great info, keep it up. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's very technical because everything gets complex too quickly, and I don't have when the system is good, it has to be complex and very technical. So I'm trying to explain as best as I can, so that everybody can try to understand the list at least a little bit. Fabio said, can you just give a quick overview or idea of how it would be to automate jumping over the walls by itself without needing to press space to jump over them, maybe in another video? To automate the jumps in the GASP system. If you want to automate the jumps, well, it's actually very simple. Right now, I'm just holding the space. If you just hold the space key on the character, you can just jump automatically. But if you want to make it fully automatically, you can just go to the event graph and go to where the spacebar is. So as you can see, if I yeah, we're gonna have to do some work with this, but basically you're gonna have to run this function here called try traversal action, and that needs to be done every frame. So if you make a custom event and then run, you can make a custom event called run automatically automatic traversal action event, and then you copy that name, and then you plug this into here, and then you go to the event tick, which is not the ideal, but just for testing purposes, you can run the automatic traversal action event so that you can jump over things automatically. So hopefully it doesn't crash. Yeah, it doesn't work like this. So I'm just going to, let me just see. It goes like this. You can plug that into here. Let me just see if the character is going to run and automatically traverse. Oh, it's not there. Okay. So as you can see, I'm not pressing any space to as you can see, I'm not pressing any space button to make it automatically jump. So that's how you do it. But I think you can make better ways without using. You can make this better without using the event tick. Was just a way of doing things. Great brother said, "Hi bro, were you sick or ill?" Not sure what's the difference, but I guess I was ill. I was pretty strong. I got a very strong flu in the whole week, so I wasn't able to do anything. Just stay in bed and take the pills. Thanks for the video. I hope you feel better soon. Thank you very much. Let me just see what's the comments. What are the comments? The full project is going to be available on the Patreon platform, but you can still follow from the tutorials if you want, if you prefer. Fiber said, "Thanks for the video. I hope you feel better soon." Uzi Pitlo Uzi Python said, "Incredible talent. Thank you very much." You're making a game? No, I'm not making any game. I'm just making a project for just showing how things are done, basically. I'm not doing anything very big, at least for now. That's not my intention, but we're gonna see how it comes later. How it's going to go later. Maybe, yeah, we're going to be able to make a game on live, but that's not my intention right now. Social media said, as always, impressive tutorials. Thank you very much. Yeah, so that's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, you can comment down below. That's very much what I've done in before the live stream.
Hopefully you got something that was really... I hope you learned something new. And yeah, that's going to be it.